Hello and welcome. So now we're at this point where we've got kind of an awareness that's building of our old thoughts, of some of the negative self-talk that we've had, and this clear vision of who we're becoming, the statements of truth. I hope you've put those everywhere. I hope you're starting to normalize those to yourself, to make those familiar, to say them to yourself, to let them in, and realize that you don't just have to be ruled by whatever comes up, that you actually have the power to choose. And it's totally okay. It's totally normal to still have that negative voice with you. It's not going to go away like that. There's two parts to changing it. One is putting in the news, saying, no, I've chosen to focus on this. I've chosen to think about this. And the other is to observe and label the negative. Observing negative habits, negative thought patterns is one of the first things. The very act of observation already starts to dissolve them. And you're doing amazing, because before this, you probably weren't even aware of some of the things that you were saying to yourself. And now that you're aware, you're already going to starting to interrupt and disrupt those thought patterns. So today, we're going to take that one step further with labeling. And many of us don't even realize that voice, that the things that we're telling ourselves aren't even us. Sometimes you might have even heard the stories from earlier this week and thought back and be like, yeah, I do say I can't afford that, or I do say I'm not deserving. And my mom did say that all the time when I was a kid. Maybe you've started to go, I don't even know where this came from. Or you hear things in public and you're like, I don't even believe this. I don't even want this to be true. So hopefully you're already starting to observe and gain awareness. But today we're going to name that negative voice. So you have from yesterday, you have those two categories of those negative thoughts and sort of the character that creates, and the character of the person that you truly are and that you're truly becoming, and those thoughts, your statements of truth. And so today we're going to give a name, because that old self, that negative stuff, that is not you. That is not the true you. And so we're going to name the voice that speaks that stuff, because just like we already learned, that voice is going when it's not. Think back to that exercise with the breathing, with the blinking. That voice in our head is running sometimes when it's not even us running it. So it's kind of like you have a bad roommate that lives in your head. And the more that we can label that roommate, the more that we can label that voice and recognize that as not you, the quieter and quieter and quieter it will get. And I remember when I started doing this kind of work, it was just a constant stream all day going. And now actually doing some of these exercises, I really had to kind of like listen and look for it, because I've quieted it so much. But so many of us are running with that, just milling busy, busy, busy thoughts in our head all day. So you are going to choose a name today, and you are going to name that negative voice in your head. I named mine Kyle. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. That was just the name that I decided on. And some of my clients have named theirs Negative Nancy. One named hers Karen, which I thought was quite funny. But whatever name comes up for you, and it doesn't have to be a person's name. You can name it kind of like the whisperer or the nagger or whatever. But you're going to name that voice that speaks negativity into you. It speaks negativity in your mind, and you're going to label that every time you hear it. So maybe you go outside and you just trip, and you hear in your head, oh, you're such an idiot. You go, no, that's Kyle. That's not me. I'm amazing. I just tripped. I've got this. So some people would also kind of maybe relate this labeling and what we're doing right now to ego work. I'm not really big on bringing the term ego in, because there's a whole lot of stuff. It's like, is it a good thing or a bad thing? And it kind of serves a lot of roles. And so we're going to stay away from that. But I will tell you, in addition to kind of the negative self-talk, the critical thoughts that you might have going on, something else this voice, your Nancy, your Kyle, might be doing is making up stories to make you feel better about situations, or making up stories to validate the way that you feel. So, for example, maybe you're in a situation with people that are more successful than you, and you start having these thoughts and being like, well, their parents had more money and they're younger and attractive and better off. That is a not self story. So that is that voice. That's something I would label, no, that's Nancy, that's Kyle. Because when you check in with your true self, your authentic self, the way you're actually feeling in that situation is, oh, I actually am just feeling a little bit intimidated. And when you can acknowledge that and say, oh, I'm feeling intimidated, and I'm feeling intimidated because, but you can actually just look at that situation and go, oh, but they're actually showing me what's possible. They're showing, again, changing that narrative of, oh, this is the person that I am and I have no control. No, I get to choose who I am. Oh, I'm in this situation and I see that people are successful. That makes me feel a certain way. And we're going to talk about this more next week as well. That's just showing me what's possible. And actually the story that Nancy, that Kyle, that my inner voice is telling me isn't even true. You know, another situation is, you know, sometimes we'll get angry. Sometimes maybe we have a partner and they say, you know, I've been doing all this stuff. I've been taking out the garbage. I've been doing the laundry. I've been doing the dishwasher, and you really haven't been contributing. And you get angry and you start telling yourself this story. Oh, I do so much and they don't appreciate me, and like la la la. And see, in anger, we feel strong, we feel powerful, we feel right. And then that voice kicks in and tells us the story to validate the way we're feeling. But again, we label that voice and say, that's not me. Because that's the bad roommate in my head. Because if I really check in, why am I angry? Well, I'm angry because I don't like hearing this. And I don't like hearing it because a part of me knows that it's true. And again, am I this person that's reactive and doesn't have any? Who do I want to be? Do I want to be a person that supports my partner? Yeah. Well, I can change that so that actually my partner, this person that I love, is expressing to me a need. And I can reflect and go, you know, maybe they can be a nag sometimes, but maybe I also, some of what they're saying is true. And I could do a little bit better. So we can label that story, label what our mind is telling us, label the story we're making up to validate how we're feeling, and actually say, who am I becoming? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in this situation? What are the thoughts? What are the behaviors of that? Say, oh, actually, I love this person and I want to make this relationship work. That's another great question to ask yourself, you know, in a situation like that. What is my intention? What is my, you know, very often it's, I actually want closeness and connection with my partner, you know, and if you get angry and you go, oh, you're this and you're that, and like, you don't understand, that gives us the very opposite of what we want. So we can ask, what's our intention? Who do I want to be in this situation? How does that person behave? How does that person speak? How does that person speak to themselves? And I know I'm kind of getting into emotions here, and we are going to learn a lot more about that. So if this seems like a lot right now, don't worry. We're going to dig way more into this. The big thing that I want you to take from today is naming that voice, naming the negativity and realizing that's not you. Those are not your true self-thoughts. Those are not your authentic self-thoughts. So name it, come up with that name, start naming that voice in your head going, that's not me, and then correcting it with your statements of truth. So that looks like, you know, walking into a crowd of people and feeling not good enough and being like, oh, everyone here is amazing and you're not, and going, no, that's Kyle. That's not me. I am amazing. I deserve to be here. You know, letting that reverberate through you. Maybe you hold your head up high. Maybe you have that glimmer in your eyes, a little bit more sparkle, because you get to be who you truly are. And just realizing too, you know, the deeper level of this is it's not just a negative self-talk, but also recognizing, when is that voice, that Kyle, that Nancy, when is it telling me a story that's not even true? And asking yourself, is this true? Do I want this to be true? How do I actually feel? What is my intention in this situation? So label that voice, give it a name, and just continue to reflect. You're doing amazing. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.